Wow. Well, what a week we have had here in Montana with temps way below zero. And this is a question I get a lot from clients. They ask about winters here, and it's a difficult one to answer just because we're dealing with the weather. And as you know, that always changes. Even the weather people can't always get it right. We've lived here for 9 winters now. So I'm going to kind of recap what we've seen, and hopefully that can help some of you out. So I am Janet with Radiant Realty, your Montana Realtor. Thank you for joining me today. Don't be shy, hit that subscribe button, leave comments below. I love reading your comments and answering any questions you have. So if you are looking to buy or sell property or home here, you can call or text me anytime at 406-890-5390. But for today, I just wanted to talk about winter. I just took my daughter back to Missoula for college, and I'm driving, which that's why I'm not in my typical spot for videos. But let's talk winter. So the last week here has been in the negative temps. Starting, it was Thursday, today's Tuesday, so not quite a full week. But we've had negative 20, negative 30, negative 19, negative, all the negatives. So it's been kind of crazy. And in the 9 years of living here, I would say the first 7 were more typical. And we would get a cold blast every year for 3 to 5 days. But the lowest that I ever saw in those first 7 years here was about -6 at night, overnight. So it really wasn't, like, I mean, obviously that's cold, but it wasn't that cold. Now, last year, we had temperatures down to -50 one night, and that was just crazy. I was concerned for all the wildlife. They seemed to survive just fine. Spring came, deer were frolicking in the fields, so clearly they are made to be able to survive that. But yeah, that was weird. And then this year, but that was only 1 or 2 nights. It was only one night where it got that cold, and then maybe one other night where it was in the negatives, and then it got up. This year, let's see. So we had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Today, right now, it's 3 degrees. So we've come out of the negatives at the high of the day. I had a client call me a couple days ago, and she said, "Did you know that it was colder today in Montana than it was in Antarctica?" And I started laughing. I said, "No way." But yes, it was. Antarctica wasn't that cold. I think it was at 25 or 23 something. I don't know. It was way warmer than I would think Antarctica would be. But it did make me laugh. And she's still looking to move here. It didn't scare her away. But she did ask, "How are you guys holding up? How are you doing?" And to that, I would say, how does life go on in Montana when it is that cold, or we do get so much snow? Honestly, Montanans are cut from a different cloth. I just talked on the phone with somebody that had moved here a few years ago, from actually a decently, relatively warm state, and asked how he was doing. And he said, "I don't mind the extreme cold, because what happens when we get that cold is usually the sun comes out, which is great. So we don't have the gray days. It seems counterintuitive, but it's so cold and so crisp that there isn't really a cloud in the sky. It's blue sky and sunshine. And then if you do have snow on the ground, it gets bright. Like, you need sunglasses when you drive bright. So that is nice, a nice break from the gray days that you hear so much about in Montana. So he said he prefers that and thinks it's kind of fun for a few days just to be so crazy cold. I'm going to post at the end of this some of the social media posts that I've seen this week from people here in Montana, and they just crack me up. They just keep going. One guy went out hiking in -40, and we just move along with life. So I'll post those at the end for you, along with a couple questions for you. But anyways, that's kind of how it goes. I dropped my daughter off at school today. This morning it was in the negatives, and nobody has a coat on. All the teens are just going into school, no coats. I wouldn't recommend that in the negative temps. I forget what my husband said. I think it was -20. He said at that temperature, you can get frostbite with just 10 minutes of exposed skin. So definitely dress properly. I'm not going to discuss that in this video. I have other videos that talk about how to drive in winter, how to dress for winter, skiing in winter, sleigh rides, all that winter stuff. So if you want to see more of that, check out my Winter in Montana playlist. But for today, I just wanted to tell you kind of how it looks. So generally with snow, you can usually expect that we might get our first flurries around Halloween, and then maybe not even accumulation till December. But it's not always typical either. So one year we had a big snowstorm in October 13th, I think it was, and we got dumped on with about a foot of snow. There's a video, my Helena walking tour. We were actually scheduled to go to Helena that weekend, my husband and I. It was a horrible drive. If we get a winter storm and you are scheduled, you should just call it off, because just wait a day or two and then go. But we didn't. We were stupid and went anyways. I would not recommend that. And then a week later, it was all melted. Last year, we got snow November 2nd, and it was super fun. But that never melted. That stayed throughout the season. So every year is just so different. I personally prefer the snow and warmer temps, and I don't mind the gray days as much. They do get a little old. But as long as I can get out and play in the snow, skiing and all that, then it's worth it. This year, we've only got to ski one time because we have had just not very much snow at all. But the one time we did go, it was our most epic skiing of all. It was an amazing day. So I will take that. And some fun things like that. I don't know if you saw my video. I posted it on Instagram. There's a reel on there just of the crazy, my husband called them thornsicles, but they're like ice thornsicles all over the trees and the grass and stuff. I've never seen that in 40 plus years of life. So there are cool things when it gets that cold, or like how I started this video where you can take the boiling water and throw it up and it just all turns to steam or something. I don't know, not steam. That's not right. It just freezes like before it hits the ground. It's crazy. It's so fun. So there are fun things about it, and it's usually not that long. It's usually for 3 to 5 days. This time it's a little bit longer. Oh, and I did want to mention too, as far as living in and through winter and what it looks like. I had heard before that your car will not start when it gets so cold. We've never dealt with that. My car gets to be spoiled in a garage, but our daughter's car sits outside. But even last year when it got -50, we never had a problem. However, this year we did have a problem on day 3 of the super cold temps. It just decided it wasn't going to start anymore, and it had enough. So I'm hoping on Wednesday it will start again. We'll see. I think it's because of the cold, although it is an older car, so I'm not sure. But there are things, so you can get, if that's a typical thing, or you leave your car outside and it's your main primary car, I think they have engine heaters that you can get. I don't know a lot about them. Maybe I need to look into it. But yeah, so that was a first this year too. So it is kind of fun when it gets that cold because there are all these firsts. But as you can see in this video, people just keep going. There's people out and about, plenty of people. My daughters went to work at their restaurant, and she was a little bit annoyed because she thought she was going to get to go home early. She was like, people just kept coming in because we were the only restaurant open. So that's something else fun, is a lot of places do close when it gets that cold. They had school off on Friday, and since we moved to Montana, as far as snow days, they don't get very many. You would think we'd get a lot here, but we're just so used to dealing with the snow that they just don't really call it unless it is that cold. I think last year they got one for how cold it was too that day, where we got down to -50, just because teens don't cover up. They don't want them freezing. So anyways, that is all I have for now. If you have further questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer them. And then I have a couple questions for you. So if you grew up in Montana, or have been here longer than me, what is the coldest temp that you recall, and what city were you in? And if you remember, what year was it? If you have not grown up in a place with winter or where it gets that cold, what do you think would be the most difficult part of dealing with that? And let's see, what is your absolute favorite season? Spring, summer, fall, or winter? Mine is actually fall. Have an amazing week. I will see you next week for another video. If you have questions or anything, give me a call or text anytime at 406-890-5390.